Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm Nick, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking a look at the top 10 lowest rated movies of all time according to IMDB, and I'm going to be ranking them from best to worst, or bad to really bad, depending how you look at these. For a movie to qualify for this list, it needs at least a rating count of 25,000. It needs to have an international release, and I'm going to take out the parodies and such. So according to IMDb, the lowest rated horror movie of all time is Manos, The Hands of Fate. We got House of the Dead at number 2, Alone in the Dark, Lax Me, which I removed because it was not an international release. We got Blood Rain, Jaws the Revenge, Troll 2. We got Slender Man, The Open House. Vampires Suck was on the list, but I removed it because it's clearly a parody and not an actual horror movie. I Know Who Killed Me, and Jaws 3D. So really we got the bottom 12 because I had to remove Vampires Suck and Lax Me. So that's how IMDb ranks them. Let's see how I rank them. So counting down to the worst of the worst, at number 10 I got Jaws 3D. Now this film I think does not deserve to be on the top 10 at all. It's a film I actually watch every year or two on my own, and I really do enjoy it. We get an all-around fun cast. We got Dennis Quaid, Bess Armstrong. Everyone does a great job. I really get a kick out of their characters as well, especially that one hotshot famous guy who shows up who acts like the best, and he has this little assistant that keeps calling him Governor. And I think those two are a whole lot of fun, and just an all-around entertaining flick, especially with the setting. We get SeaWorld in this, and who doesn't want a Jaws movie taking place in SeaWorld? And Jaws 3D has a lot of 80s charm to it too, especially like the scenes like in the bar at the first, where they're playing that game where they try to push each other over at the bar. That seems like something straight out of like a Roadhouse or something, you know? This has that 80s charm to it, and the only negative I could really give is the 3D effects. Yes, they look terrible, especially with the shark going through that glass. Like, y'all know the scene. But aside from that, it's a really fun flick. At number 9, we got I Know Who Killed Me, which is a Lindsay Lohan driven film. I had no idea this film even existed until going through this list. And it was okay. It has a really dumb twist. The film is about this girl who goes missing and comes back missing her arm and her leg, and she's been tortured by a serial killer, but she doesn't remember anything, and she claims that she's actually not the person she is. She claims to be another girl that no one even knows about, and I thought that was a pretty interesting premise, and I was curious to see how things were going to play out. They handled the mystery fairly well. Like I said, it's just the reveal. You almost get one of those bad M. Night Shyamalan reveals at the end where it's like, oof, I don't know if that was the smartest decision. It almost takes away from how grounded and realistic the film actually was pre-hand. And funny enough, the film has some like art house qualities to it. I think that's what it was going for, and it kind of failed at doing so. But at the same time, it's what makes this film unique is it's like blue color patterns. And depending on which character we're following, sometimes it's all blue and sometimes it's all red. And I think those parts are actually pretty neat, even though it wasn't handled like 100% well, but it definitely wasn't terrible either. Like, it made the film stand out a little bit more, putting those color patterns and that in there. And I mean, the gore's pretty good when the torture scenes. We got some pretty good comedy moments in here. I think they all pretty much land. I just didn't really care for the ending or the answers they gave us to why all this is happening. Even though they do give you answers, which is better than leaving it blank and leaving you to guess. Though that only works sometimes. But in this film, they actually give you everything. It's just that it's not what I wanted. And the killer, the serial killer himself in this film, wasn't set up real properly. Like, it's not real shocking when you see it because you're like, okay, it was that guy. And there's not much to him. But besides that, it was an okay flick. And I'm actually surprised the movie turned out as well as it actually did, because reading like trivia and that about this film, you find out that Lindsay Lohan was late every day to set, or she just didn't show up at all, and they had to use like not a stunt double but like a look-alike to fill in her parts. and then they had to like put her face over those scenes when they could in editing. So all things considering, it didn't turn out too bad. Coming in at number 8, we got Blood Rain. Now this is one of 3 Boll films. The director, he has 3 films on the top 10 lowest rated horror movies of all time on IMDb. Like, how do you manage 3 stinkers on the same list? But besides the point, this movie, it's based off a video game which I've never played, so I can't comment too much on that, but I thought it was okay. This is sort of like your below average Sunday night flick you can throw on and be like, that was all right, but never watch it again. But it wasn't completely disgraceful or real terrible. And I mean, we got a great cast all around. We got Kristanna Loken as our main Rain, our main character. She's from like Terminator 3 and that, as the Terminatrix, if you remember her from that. She does a fairly good job, and I feel like the surrounding cast does a great job too. But we got like Michael Madsen, like Ben Kingsley, Billy Zane. We even got Meatloaf in here. So for a film that is not very liked, it got a pretty impressive cast all around. And the action is sometimes cheesy, but it's serviceable. Like, I mean, most times you don't get to see like the swords go into people. They go to do it and the next shot is it's already in and the guy's going, oh. But we do get the blood and the gore, which I found was pretty good. Scenes with like people on hooks, and there's titties and all this at like almost like a whorehouse in the film. And all in all, it was okay. A nice little adventure. And I mean, all the set pieces and the costumes and everything look great as well, because this is like a period piece, like back in the day. My biggest complaint is like the villain in this one. He didn't really have any good motives. It was just like he just wants to take over, you know, like your typical evil bad guy. I didn't really care for that. And he doesn't even get much screen time, so the threat doesn't feel real, you know what I mean? Like, it's not pressing. But yeah, I did enjoy this flick. It's definitely one I could watch again, so not bad for number 8 in the top 10 worst. At number 7, we got House of the Dead, another Boll film, another video game adaptation. I don't know why this guy keeps doing video game adaptations. If you look at his bio, it says that he's not even a video game fan. And guess what? The other film on this list is a video game film as well. So I always found that odd. But besides the point, this film is one that I've always seen the cover of at the movies. I like the video store and all that back in the day, but I never checked it out. And I'm kind of glad I didn't. It's not the best film. We're starting to get into the really bad movie territory right here. Some of the zombie action is pretty fun on here. It takes place on an island. I like the setting. Our main cast isn't great, but I like some of the side characters. We get Clint Howard and a captain that he hangs out with on a boat. I think they're a lot of fun. The soundtrack's pretty cool. It's like almost like this techno soundtrack, like almost like the early 2000 films we're all doing with like Resident Evil and Underworld. This movie definitely has early 2000 vibes written all over it. But our main cast, like our main characters, are all very forgettable. The action scenes are okay for the most part, but there's this one that goes on way too long, like an hour in the film around. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen it, and it just feels like it lasts forever. And for some reason, they thought it was a good idea to insert clips from the arcade game into the film. Like, while they're fighting, it'll randomly show like a pixelated screen of the video game real quick on the screen. And it's like, who thought that was a good idea? Like, terrible idea. It looks stupid. Obviously, the video game is like an old arcade game, so the graphics don't translate. And there's really no point of doing it aside from showing, hey, this is off a video game. So I thought that was a terrible, terrible decision. So while I don't think that this is the worst film ever made, it has a million flaws though. Like, it's riddled with flaws. But there is potential there. I think if we actually had a good director and a good writer, we could fix up this story and actually make a decent little chapter. Coming in at number 6, we got Jaws the Revenge, the second Jaws movie on this list. And this was the last Jaws movie ever made, and there's a reason for that. It is just so ridiculous. Like, the first film was fairly grounded, and everything was done almost perfectly, while this one is the complete opposite. I do like that they bring back some characters from the older movies. We get that little bit of connective tissue there, but I hate what they do with them. And basically, the only other positive I have is Michael Caine and Jake, the Jamaican character, are both fun side characters. But besides that, I can't stand this film. Lucky I love shark flicks. That's the only reason why it's at number 6 on because I could still watch it just because it's a shark flick, but it's in no way or any means good. We got extremely choppy editing every time the shark is around or any intense scenes are going on. The shark looks stupid, looks ridiculous, and it roars like a lion. This has one of the most ridiculous storylines I've ever seen, with a shark wanting revenge on the Brody family, like, and traveling all the way from the East Coast down to the Bahamas. It's like, are you serious? And then you got the mom having this telepathic connection with the shark, and her having flashbacks of all these scenarios that she was never even there when they happened, so I don't know how the hell she knows. And this movie has one of the most idiotic endings I've ever seen. The way they kill the shark, it's like, come on, what, like they poke it with the end of the boat with like, are you serious? And it explodes like it's friggin' a bomb. Like, it doesn't make any sense. This movie is goofy, but it takes itself way too serious to be fun. Coming in at number 5, we got Troll 2. Now, on a technical level, this film is terrible. Like, it would fail in every category, from acting to story to whatever, right? Even the title. It's called Troll 2, and there's not one piece. It's not a sequel to Troll 1, and there's not one bit of troll shit in here. There's nothing to do with trolls. It's a goblins. Like, everything in this movie is about goblins. Even the town spelt backwards is goblin. I don't know if that was supposed to be like something real clever that they put in there, but it wasn't. But the thing that keeps this movie from going lower on my list is that it's super entertaining. Like, you get a kick of how badly made this film is, from the characters to the dialogue to, it's like at one point they saved the day with a double decker bologna sandwich. Like, what the hell? Oh my god, everything in this movie is this bad shit crazy, but there's always enough there in each scene that get a good kick out of or a laugh. And it's just a movie that's real fun to sit around with your friends and have a drink and just kind of make fun of it. But a few positives that it actually has: its score is actually pretty good, even though it's odd at times with the scenarios. It's a pretty good musical score to this. And the effects aren't that bad either when they have like branches coming out of people and shit. Because obviously the storyline to this is that these goblins are turning the people into part plants so that they can eat them, because they don't eat meat. And the effects of like the green goo coming down when they're sweating and that, and the branches coming out, doesn't look half bad for this type of movie. And the musical score is alright. Everything else is terrible, but it's done in a hilarious way. Coming in at number 4, we got Slender Man. Now, this, I'm saying right off the bat, I think this would have worked way better as a short story. This premise or story feels so stretched out, giving the runtime in this. It would have really worked best as a 25, maybe 35-minute film, this little short. Then it would have probably been pretty good. But, man, is it bad. The visuals are not impressive for the year, I'll tell you that. They look terrible. Slender Man himself is one of the weakest villains I've ever seen. He's super forgettable. There's nothing to him, really. And for this type of movie to work, you really have to have a real strong atmosphere. You need to make it creepy, because that's what this whole movie's about. And it didn't have any of that. There was not once where I felt like the scene was getting tense. They tried, but they failed miserably. They mostly just throw these cheap jump scares at you that don't land at all. You see them coming a mile away, and they're not scary at all. And the plot is just so basic and straightforward that it almost feels like a chore getting through this runtime. Like I said, it's just overstretched. Yes, the actors and actresses portraying these characters do an alright job. That's probably my biggest positive for here. But the characters themselves are just so wooden and shitty. And yeah, it's just a terrible film, guys. At number 3, we got the movie The Open House. This is a Netflix film, or at least it's owned by Netflix now. And yeah, I did not enjoy this film at all. Interesting enough premise where this family moves into this house that's for sale and they have an open house every Sunday. So random people go in and out every Sunday, but one happens to stay behind. And the family, well, it's a mom and the son, start wondering if there's someone else in the house with them throughout the week. And basically, it's a good idea, but it's a terrible screenplay. Like, whoever wrote the screenplay did an awful job. Unless you want to watch characters just walk around a house with a flashlight basically for the entire runtime until the end. They set up these red herrings to who it could be, whether it be the neighbor or whether it be, different people in the town. And they kind of do that for nothing because that goes nowhere. And it's just one of those movies that felt like, really, that's it? There's just no substance to it. It just completely falls flat. What you imagine in your head is what happens. It's like, yeah, open house, someone in the house. Yeah, there was someone in the house. They were bad. End of movie. It's like, you gotta give us more than that. And aside from that, our main lead, the kid there, he just felt like he didn't want to do this performance at all. It felt like the laziest portrayal of a character I've seen in a long time. The mom was okay. But besides that, this movie just was boring. It lacked style. It lacked smarts. Like, it's not clever at all. It's literally a first draft where you go in, you have an idea, but you didn't actually come up with any plot lines or anything going on in the film aside from your main idea. And yeah, I know some people like this movie and like how it's like ambiguous, but to me, to be ambiguous, you have to set your movie up better than this. At number 2, we got Manos, The Hands of Fate from 1966. Now, IMDB has this as their lowest rated horror movie of all time. And yeah, I'm not far from it. It is odd as hell, super bizarre. It's like, where do I start with this one? Terrible acting all around, especially from like the bad guy's henchman or whatever at the house. Can't remember his name right now, but I read up that he was on LSD during this role, and you can kind of tell he's like twitching and making these weird faces, giving lines like 30 seconds too late, and it's like, are you serious? Yeah, but bad acting all around. Bad editing, like some of the worst editing I've ever seen. Like, I've seen YouTubers do way better. It's like there's scenes where like walking out of a house, they take like a step and then they cut in the next scene at the wrong time where they're still like leaving the door again. Or it's this terrible editing. Everything's cut at the wrong spots and put in at the wrong spots. The score is very odd. The music, it just doesn't go with it at all. I mean, at first you're watching this and it's kind of like, it's so bad it's good, like kind of like Troll 2. But not long after, you start to get bored and this movie just becomes a snooze fest. Like, it's really bad, but it's almost at the point where it's not even funny anymore. The only other problem I really have with this is the villain. Like, he is not scary at all or menacing. He has his Doberman at one part, and the Doberman doesn't even look like a scary dog at all, aside from when it's in the painting. Every time you see it, this looks like a happy dog. Yeah, this movie's just weird. It's bizarre. You have to really check it out for yourself at least once just to say you did. And there's no wonder the director only made this one film ever. And another thing I read online, I don't know if it's true or not, but I guess he made this movie on a bet just to prove that he could make a movie. And yeah, you made one. You made one, but it's not good. But for me, easily coming in at number 1 for the worst movie on this list is Alone in the Dark. Another U-Bowl film. Another video game adaptation. You just gotta leave that shit alone. I mean, where do I start with this one? Like, for one thing, the movie just makes zero sense. After watching it, I was so confused. I was like, I barely understand the plot of this thing. It's way too complicated and convoluted, and there's no reason for it. Even at the beginning, you get like 10 minutes of text coming up on the screen trying to explain shit, and I guess they added that in after the test screenings didn't know what the hell were going on. And even with that intro, I still kind of didn't have a clue what the hell was happening. It's like, there's these creatures, there's these guys out fighting people, there's these soldiers, there's this talk of Indians and like this tribe, and it's just like this portal, and it's like, what the hell? These guys, this orphanage with one guy going missing, and it's like, it's all side plot. The whole movie's like a big side plot, and we never actually know what the hell's going on. We got Christian Slater in this, which doesn't save the movie at all, even though I enjoy him. And Tara Reid, she couldn't act her way out of a wet paper bag in this film. Like, oh my god, terrible. They have no chemistry at all either, and they're supposed to have like a love interest in this. Oh my god, this movie is boring as hell. It's the most boring out of all these films. It's one that I hope I never have to revisit. The effects alone on the monsters, awful, even for the time. Awful CGI. And that's the least of this movie's worries. It's just a terrible flick on all accounts. And for a movie called Alone in the Dark, they have an awful lot of daytime scenes and very little horror at all in the entire film. If I was watching this not knowing, I probably wouldn't even think it was a horror movie until maybe the last act. And even then, it's pitiful. Now, this one is just not appealing at all to me. I was so bored through it, uninterested. It was a real chore to get through. The pacing is the worst I've seen on this entire list. And it really does everything wrong. If I could give it a 0, I would. So there you have it, guys. I took the bottom 10 lowest rated horror movies on IMDb, and I ranked them to my liking. Quite different matchup than what IMDb has, but most of these are stinkers. Like I said, Jaws 3D is the only one I really enjoy, and Blood Rain and a few other ones were just okay, but the bottom half of this list is shit. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that ranking, and let me know down below other rankings you would like me to do, whether it be like this, like IMDb rankings, or franchise rankings. I'm always interested to hear on what you guys want to see. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.